Alright boys, welcome to JJDL Season 4 Civil War Week 2. If you missed Week 1, check that out in the top right hand corner. We also have a draft analysis that if you missed, I highly recommend you check out. After Week 1, our heroes, Team Magma, were sitting at a pretty disappointing 5-7 unfortunately. After the draft, we really felt like we had the strongest team on paper, but we failed to show that Week 1. Spirits were high though as we went into Week 2 and faced Team Rocket, captained by Central and Smaster. We started off on the right foot this week as one of our captains, SJ, managed to get a forfeit win versus wwalt, and we started off the week 1-0. To start things off, Buffcat put up a really good fight, but unfortunately fell to a really nice Dragon Dance Muset late in the game. But in the second game, Lego was able to pull off a very strong victory on the back of Lanad the Landers under sticky webs, and it just did so much damage and was able to pull out another Team Magma win. Eltrim and their fantastic team put up a very good fight, but unfortunately just didn't have enough in the tank and managed to lose to Halucha in the in-game. Klinger's Soul Komao ended up giving wind in our sand team a little bit too many problems, and we fell to that. And Pep pulled off a pretty convincing win with some clutch paras against Neji and managed to take Team Magma to 3-3 in our first 6 games. First game that I want to take a deep dive into is going to be our second Captain Mountain Man's game, in which he took on Alphan and their rain team. The game started off slow with a Will-O-Wisp into Scizor as Thundurus came in a very good sequence to get Meowscarada in a Thundurus. We were then able to pick off the Thundurus with a super cool Life Orb Power Gem set, and Metagross came in on the Barraskewda. Our Metagross was able to Iron Defense up and get a massive Thunder Punch on the Pelipper, eliminating Rain once Pelipper went down. We couldn't defend against an Overcool KO, and Thundurus eventually picked off the Scizor and got Sun Up on the Barraskewda. With some late game forceful pivoting, Meowscarada picked up a KO on the Sylveon, and Big Man was able to gunk into our Weezing at +2, knocking it out. Meowscarada was almost able to clean up the in-game after this, but it barely missed the KO on the Sylveon, so Baxcalibur was able to pick up that last KO, and Mountain Man was able to pull off a really cool victory here. Next up, our boy Jamal was able to pull out a massive win for Team Magma. He brought some really cool sets like Power Herb, Meteor Beam, Jirachi for the Torkoal, which I believe Buffcat suggested, so great suggestion from him, and he was able to secure a very powerful W for us. Our Sun team ended up falling to a very cool Weakness Policy special Dragonite set, and even though I hate to gas our opponent Zombie up, it was a pretty cool set, man. Ant unfortunately ran into a very well positioned Iron Crown that was Weakness Policy Agility and was able to clean up his team in the in-game. And lastly, Dan took home a win. It was a pretty good matchup in which Tinkaton was able to eventually clutch the game out against LATIAS. Finally, my game. We play ANNIHILAPE. Again, great, fantastic. We faced Chef this week, and his super scary team is just my team from BBR, but on steroids. Super awesome team Chef, unfortunately not super awesome to prep for. Our ANNIHILAPE counterplay obviously has not changed, and it was at this point that I really started questioning whether or not we needed to make some serious transactions for this team. We don't for a while, we eventually do, but I'll talk about that like week 4. On top of ANNIHILAPE, we also matched up into Terapagos very poorly. I talked about that a little bit last week. That didn't change either. And Weavile is always going to be a little bit of a tough matchup when your waters are pretty low tier guys like Tentacruel and what else do I have? I don't know, doesn't matter. The prep for this one was one that I was actually pretty unsure about until I played the game. I bounced between a lot of different things, but the team that I ended up going with was actually pretty cool. We had a Weakness Policy LATIAS with Agility and Psych Up. Psych Up was something I debated back and forth between, but keep in mind I just got destroyed by ANNIHILAPE, so most of my prep was heavily centered on not losing to it again. Psych Up was simply to copy the bulk up boost from ANNIHILAPE and get stored power as strong as possible. We also brought Scarf Grin to help outpace the Weavile, Chapel Crutch King Gambit of course, Roar Chestnut to actually roar out the ANNIHILAPE that threatens us if he is like bulk up, Rocky Helmet Tentacruel to help with the Weavile, and Covert Cloak Clefable to help with the Latios. One prep point I wanted to point out is that yes, Haze Acid Armor Tentacruel is a very bad set, but I was deep in my bag trying to find out how to not lose to any variant of ANNIHILAPE, and I saw an avenue to keep it at bay mid-game with Haze, but Wallet in the in-game with Acid Armor if need be. Was there a better moveset here? Most definitely. The game started with me leading Tentacruel as Chef led Tinkaton. I prioritized a T-Spike since Chef did not bring Quillfish, but he caught me off guard with an offensive Sword Stance Tinkaton. I was able to keep it down with Haze, and eventually LATIAS came out. I went into my check to it, Clefable, and forced it out as we learned that it had sub. This forced Tinkaton out again, and I went Chestnut this time to hopefully catch a non-SD turn, but still have the option to roar if it did SD. It SD'd, I roared it out, and eventually got a Thunderwave para on the Tinkaton. Kingambit came out and flinched the Tinkaton with Iron Head and was able to put it down with a second one. This forced out a defensive Terapagos that spun the T-Spike away, preserving what I can only assume was not Boots ANNIHILAPE as I broke the Terra Shell. A Fizdef Shaman then came in and we went LATIAS as Chef doubled ANNIHILAPE. I decided it was now or never for our win con. In hindsight, we didn't really have all of the necessary chip that we needed, and it was definitely a little early to be going for the game like this, but I decided that a mid-game breaking angle is what I was going to go for instead of the in-game angle with LATIAS. Was it the right decision objectively? Absolutely not, but I did just do it a little bit early here. I stayed in and agility'd while getting the weakness policy boost, and Chef sacked Weavile and most of LATIAS to my LATIAS. Unfortunately, the LATIAS lived on 10, proving to me that if we got any more chip, we likely won with the LATIAS. I still saw an avenue to win though. I went into Grin and got damage on the incoming Terapagos, as it was able to get a pretty friendly roll on my Kingambit and 2-8 KO it. This wasn't hacks by any means, but this being 2-shot here off of that roll, like that flinch on Tinkaton likely didn't really matter earlier in the match. I decided I valued a paralysis on this Terapagos, so I went Clefable, got a super lucky special attack drop to be able to moonlight past this turtle. I dodged the Seed Flare on my Tentacruel and had to get some pretty uncomfortable pivots for a few turns, with a Healing Wish from Shaman saving Terapagos. Eventually, Chestnut was in on Terapagos and Chef made a very nice double into LATIAS on my Spiky Shield. This forced the Tentacruel sack and made my Grin come in. I picked up the KO on the LATIAS, but with Terapagos being full health now, the game was pretty much locked up. I was ultimately unable to have the pieces to break both ANNIHILAPE and Terapagos in the in-game, and Chef won this nail-biter. Unfortunately, I myself have fallen to 0-2 as the #1 pick in the entire draft, which is obviously not a great look. This is my worst start to a league in a long time, and also my worst start in JJDL by far. However, the good news, I am free from the shackles that is ANNIHILAPE. So hopefully, we'll be able to play better and perform better moving forward. Next week, we will be playing Team Star, captained by Star and Obo, and I actually play Star himself. Good game to Team Rocket. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like on this video, and shout out to Sunny for editing this. And for now, guys, this has been John Jr. signing off. Klinger's soul that's hard to say. Klinger's soul Komao. Try saying that, dude. I was trying to try saying that 3 times fast, and I couldn't even say that because of how much it tripped me up. That was weird.